Close your eyes and tell me what they see. Now close one eye and tell me what it sees. Acknowledge the world is dark with two eyes but gone entirely with one eye, and tell me the world is simple. Is that a chill wind that rustles the trees, or a sinister will entering your life? And wherefrom come those voices? One eye opens, and behold our leading men. Rick, bleak and out of place in the wet wilderness of wherever the bloody hell, and off-screen presence of Blake. Rick becomes the subject as Blake keeps the camera running, fascinated by the artifact. It's obsolete, a good 20 years out of manufacture, scratched up and used beyond guarantees. There's no shake reduction, and when zooming in, the video turns into stop motion. And it's not theirs. They found it in the middle of the woods, reverently placed on a stump like the golden idol in Raiders. Battery still charged, as if presented for anyone to find. Who put it there? And why? The dimming light starves the camera of focus as the sun sets and the November night floods the chill woodlands and plunges the film into darkness. All the while, Rick and Blake aimlessly trample through the rotting leaves and twigs and shooting the breeze about everything and nothing. Only now, almost stumbling back into camp, does Blake remember why they went out there in the first place. They were supposed to gather firewood. It entirely slipped their mind between fucking about with the camera and the promise of fireworks, and they just have to laugh. It was literally the one thing they had to do, and Doug is gonna be pissed. Sure enough, yeah. The first thing Doug wants to know when the two fools enter the camp is where's the firewood. Well, he told them they had to find dead wood and dry sticks, and that's not exactly easy to find in November. Not exactly a lie, but just not the whole truth, and does seem to keep Doug from flaring up despite them leaving him in the dark for the past few hours. They still need firewood, so they risk leaving the camp unguarded and let Doug lead them in the hunt for the dry branches in the sodden forest. Working together, they should be able to gather more wood faster and hurry back to camp before the fireworks start. Plus, they now have the addition of Doug's flashlight. To the camera, it's barely a hotspot flitting across the dock of the clammy foliage, broken up by trees like the legs of a wharf. But the boys see well enough. A smooth shape on the forest floor part the darkness, and the boys find they're not alone out there. It's a tent. Wet, soiled, left open for weather and climate to make toilet inside, it is nonetheless eerie to find out here. Same as the camera. Where is the owner? Why did they leave it here? Bet you don't dare get in there. Blake is the first to say it, and Doug the first to act. It just looks disgusting and unwelcoming, but there's no one here, so what's the harm? Just gonna gross each other out a little bit before the bum that comes back and chases them off. But then something does catch their attention. There's a knapsack hung in one of the trees, as if to keep it from scavengers. Inside there's not much of anything. Some cloth, a glove, and, most strikingly, an old book. Old doesn't adequately describe it. It's a leather-bound journal, and musty with the smell of Bensound and toluene. I'm butchering those words. Thick pages of artisanal paper, thick as fingernails and dry as bone, pressed so tight together, only when they're allowed to breathe do they separate. It's a journal, handmade and untouched for Lord knows how long, and urgently warning them off from the very first page. He came to me in my sleep. From the foot of my bed I felt a sensation. He took everything. We must return to England. We shall not return here. At the request of the rake. So there was a burglar then? Nah, that's Venom from Marvel Comics. No, it's a new one. It's a boy who was bit by a radioactive gardening tool. And so the jokes flow at the ridiculousness of the drug-addled delusions of whoever doodled this junk. And it only gets easier as they keep flicking the pages. Lists like game stats or wiki entries follow. Abilities confirmed, motivations driving it, crimes committed. Stalking, murder, stalking, torture, stalking, psychological abuse, stalking, genocide. And even more stalking. It's a bit of a creeper then, isn't it? Any case, they found the firewood, and whoever left this clearly ain't coming back, so may as well take it. For reasons unclear, the book holds a strange sway over Rick. Even as they get the fire going and the soothing pops of distant fireworks wash over the forest, the book holds his attention in rapt clutches. He acts nothing of it, and soon as Blake and Doug address him, he answers, but just as quick he turns back to the janky scribbles in the centennial tome. Regretting their choice of campsite, too far to see the fireworks and too muggy to be pleasant, they try to make the best of it. Their sleeping bags call to them. The fresh air and warm fire should make for a resounding night's rest. But it doesn't come for all of them. Doug is out like a candle, but Blake remains stubbornly awake. Just for anything to distract his worrying mind, he plays around with the camera and discovers its nighttime settings. Then he notices something. Rick is still awake, stubbornly examining the distressed pages. His behavior is really starting to worry Blake, and he tells Rick as much. Now, with Doug out of earshot, and knowing Blake might be less inclined to make a clown out of him, Rick admits something. This whole thing with the rake feels uncomfortably familiar, like this isn't the first time he's heard of it. While he's not making fun, Doug is quick to point out the thing reads like some sort of bad net fiction. You know, this sounds like those bad ghost stories kids write to scare each other. The freaking thing even has stats. Turning more pages, something new grabs Rick's attention. A set of pages that don't fit among the aged pulp that surrounds them. The layered square of bleached white falls into his hand and he opens it. The forest seems to still around them. The fire vanishes in the background. The world as a whole grows distant, along with Blake's worried attempts to bring Rick back to the now. He stands, pale and quiet, and insists they put the book back where they found it. Right this instant, he grabs the flashlight and leaves, Blake on his heels, demanding to know what's going on. Only when the fire has truly vanished in the distance, and the forest dull every sound and impression around them with its lightless branches and rain-laden foliage, does Rick calm down enough to explain. He doesn't want to. Even Blake would find this ridiculous, but he doesn't care if he believes it. Rick doesn't know the rake from the internet. He knows it personally. The paper from the book? It's a drawing of his family. It's a drawing he made when he was a kid, and it shows him murdering them. The nightmares he suffered, the monster he saw at the end of this bed, the years of terror repressed until now, and all the horrid memories. It was all the rake. And that is why they have to put the book back and leave right now. If all this madness is too much for Blake to handle, we don't get the chance to find out. From their pockets buzzes Doug's voice, demanding to know where they are, and yeah, they tell him they left to put the book back because Rick was really freaking out about it, and they're really far from the camp, but they'll be right back. But if they're right there, who is outside their tents? Guys? If that's you outside the tent, tell me right now. Static cuts out the walkie. Doug doesn't answer their calls. They run blindly, panicked for their friend's well-being. The direction, the landmarks, the faint outline of their footprints, and the damp undergrowth all blends together in their haste. Where are they going? Where are they? How long do they run for? And Blake stops. He stumbles. He backtracks and runs wordlessly away, leaving Rick to his fate. At first, he doesn't see it, and then it saunters out of the woods. Mishappened, feral, curious, monstrous. Rick turns and runs and he doesn't stop. He leaves his friends for dead and he doesn't care. The electric streetlights flash him by. The wet asphalt echoes beneath him. Still he runs until he finally reaches his home and sees it leering outside his door. It traps him inside his home. He can't leave or let its guard down. It won't come in, but it daren't go outside. All he can do is wait and understand how hopeless he is. It's here. It's taken everything. He shall not return at the request of the rake. True to its myth, he finds his mind taken to the edge of reason. Exhausted and desperate, he does what he can. He grabs the book and leaves his final thoughts. He has found me again. I did not hurt my friends. I'm terrified to sleep tonight. He will be there. He's coming. And so it is, when the last ounce of strength leaves him, in the darkest moments before dawn, alone and helpless, as if not the world exists at all, from the dark emerges the childhood horror, intent on the prone body splayed for its delectation. I hope you liked this different approach to my reviews, but let's address what I actually thought about this movie. Writing about it, I didn't linger too much on the experience of watching it, but as a fan of found footage, I found it skillfully directed for an immersive level of realism bordering on mumblecore. That is realistic to the extent it became downright boring. Props to H. Owen Richardson, Craig Wakefield and Kai Hall for their acting jobs. If they're not friends in real life, they're impressively skilled ad-libbers, talking about nothing of importance whatsoever for any real passion or clue where their conversation is even going for impressive amounts of time. I definitely believe these were real people I watched interacting on screen, which, as I already discussed in my review of Second Honeymoon, is a double-edged sword. See, it's hard to not make that sort of interaction tedious to sit through. Especially when the eventual payoff is supposed to be something out of the ordinary and fantastic. You just wanna fast forward until it gets exciting. And on that note, once the fantastic enters the picture, it doesn't entirely fit. Starting with the book, if you think about its contents for even a second, the whole thing becomes too ridiculous to take seriously. As I understood it, it's either supposed to be the ship captain's journal from the original creepypasta, or just another victim's mad ramblings alluding to the original creepypasta. Either way, it doesn't work. You're telling me someone journaled one thing on the first page and then spent pages making etch-a-sketches before listing character stats like a game of D&D? And revelations like Rick having experienced the rake before seems contrived beyond measure after you spent so long setting up a believable, setting. So is it just a dull mess of a film with no redeeming qualities? No. I stand by what I said about it being skillfully directed. But it is an acquired taste. If I say it reminds a lot of the Blair Witch Project, you'll know immediately what I'm talking about. While presentation and payoff left me wanting, it is among the most believable found footage films I've seen. It actually feels like an undoctored bit of home video, like an original raw video sent to channels like Nuke's Top 5 before he cuts out 90% of it and only shows the creature. Discovering an old video camera is contrived, but does add to the whole cryptid sighting feel it goes for. It adds even more when we finally see the rake in its entirety. It looks exactly like the Wild Game Innovations JPEG. In fact, I'd say it looks even better considering it's not made in a computer, and to make a creature look like the rake looks real, while it's still keeping it all mumblecore, is an impressive achievement. Even when we get the best view of it possible when it sneaks into Rick's house while he sleeps, it looks fantastic. So if you're willing to suspend disbelief and accept the footage is real, between the acting, interaction, footage, effects and almost aimless plot, then this is definitely among the best found footage films I've seen this year. But for my money, I just couldn't suspend disbelief enough to let the tedium slide. When you make a mumblecore film and then include things like happenstance, cameras, eldritch journals, childhood trauma, cryptids, and characters just not making an ounce of sense, yeah, it becomes too easy to see the fraud. Thank you all for watching. I have been Core Scratches, and I hope you will see me again next time to take a look at what I found. By the way, I got a teleprompter, and yes, I'm having a lot of fun with it.